Hey, this is Solution Wolf, and my name is Scott Keeler. Tonight, or today, we're going to be talking about probably the best or the granddaddy of them all as far as self-help books go, and that is a book called Think and Grow Rich. Now, there's many reviews that are out there on Think and Grow Rich, and deservedly so. This book has inspired countless thousands and thousands, if not millions, of people to achieve higher levels of whatever they determine success is for them. And wanted to just kind of go through and give a reason and kind of take a look at some of the aspects of this book so that if you are thinking about picking up a book, somebody suggested it to you, this is why you might want to pick this book up and take a look at all the functions that are in it. It was written in, between uh, 19, 1904 to 1934. If you want to make it 30 years, maybe 1914. So basically 20 years. So here's really the story behind Think and Grow Rich. Napoleon Hill. A lot of people will go, okay, Napoleon Hill, he wrote this book, Think and Grow Rich. He was inspired to write it by Andrew Carnegie. Well, more than just inspired to write it by Andrew Carnegie, he was commissioned to write it. And in fact, what happened was Andrew Carnegie with his brother were in the business of selling magazine subscriptions, and they were trying to interview successful people. Somehow Napoleon Hill landed an interview with Andrew Carnegie. He went out to his house and sat down with Mr. Carnegie, and Andrew Carnegie laid out his principles for success. And at the end of the day, when Andrew Carnegie thought he was, or when Napoleon Hill thought he was all through, Andrew Carnegie says, "Now we're just getting started." Andrew Carnegie ended up staying I mean, Napoleon Hill, I apologize. Napoleon Hill ended up staying at Andrew Carnegie's house for 3 days, trying to digest all this stuff that, he had never heard of before. He didn't even really know what the word philosophy meant. And here was Andrew Carnegie trying to teach him about philosophy. So after 3 days, Andrew Carnegie says, "Hey, so here is what I want to ask you to do." So obviously, he saw favor in Napoleon Hill. He looked at Napoleon Hill and says, "I want you to spend the next 20 years of your life taking to the public what I've just told you this whole weekend. And what I want to do is I I want you to go out and I want you to talk to several, people that have done well and authenticate some of the things that I've told you and come up with your own conclusions." And he said, "And I want you to do this on your own dime, and I'm not going to pay you. And what I'll do though is give you letters of introduction, and and I'll keep tabs on you." And it's like, poor Napoleon Hill's like, what was he gonna say? Um, it was like he barely had enough money to get a bus ticket back to his home, right? And so it's like, well, so, but you know what? He kept his mouth shut and he just said, "You can count on me to do it." And that became the start of their friendship. Over the course of time, Napoleon Hill was introduced to several people. Just for an example, he was introduced to Henry Ford. Uh, it was Andrew Carnegie said, he goes, "I want you to go meet this fellow, Mr. Ford. He is going to be something special in the automotive industry." And Napoleon Hill recites when he got there, he met Mr. Ford. Ford was underneath a car playing around and came out all greasy and dirty, and he kind of wiped his hands on his trousers and went to shake his hands, and here Napoleon's all dressed up in a suit. And it's like, oh my gosh, Mr. Carnegie must have had the wrong guy in mind, because I can't see this Mr. Ford guy doing anything. Well, of course, that was Henry Ford. And we know the outcome of what happened with him and Ford Motor Company. So, but again, there was a lot of this in the beginning. Another incident was come World War II, Andrew Carnegie was actually part of the Roosevelt staff in the White House. He had an office down in the basement. He was making the grand total of $1 a year. Now, that was just that was just put on the book so that he could have access to the White House and get to his office. So, his real money that he was making was in the compensation of writing books. But he was part of the Franklin D. Roosevelt's mastermind group of what to do with the oncoming war, what to do with, a lot of different the different things that were in place, and whatever that, I can't remember, the New Deal and that kind of thing. So here was Napoleon Hill doing that. But let's go back just a little ways. He's writing this book, and it becomes published in 1937 and becomes an instantly bestseller because it's got the endorsement of so many people. We've got I could just go through a few, and here are the two books that I will show you right now. You can tell one's kind of old and beat up. This is my old one. This is a new one. This is one of the few new ones that I have left. And the funny thing about this new one is that when I go to give this out, and I hope this doesn't come backwards in the thing, but when I go to hand this out, I give people a new one because I'm so enthralled with this book. And some of the names that are mentioned in here that he has, that he had talked with were like Henry Ford, William Wrigley of Wrigley Gum, George Eastman of the Eastman, Kodak, Wilbur Wright, William Jennings Bryan. Some of these people there's some of these people you might not have heard, but of course John D. Rockefeller and Thomas Edison, F.W. Woolworth, Colonel Robert Dollar, the Woodrow Wilson, Howard Taft, some of the presidents that would come along, and Alexander Graham Bell. And these are just a few of the ones that they're just some of the famous people that he went and interviewed. So you've got this book, Think and Grow Rich. And in the book, he talks about 13 principles. There's actually 17 principles. And what he did is he combined a couple of the principles into one. So truly there's 17. And when some of the people went to endorse it, they endorsed it under the disposition of 17 chapters that were in there. But then Napoleon Hill sliced it down to 13. So in reviewing this book, the reason that if you are serious about wanting some self-help or wanting to go further on in your life, the reason that this book is going to be so important is it's going to give you a lot of background. And what is so interesting is, my gosh, it is like going on 80 some years, but since this has been written, and the same principles still apply, the same type of thing. Some of the principles that he talks about is desire and faith. What he said is, whatever man can dream and believe, he can achieve. And so everything starts with desire, and then have faith, the faith that you can do it. Now, there was a movie out called The Secret, and many of the same thing, this law of attraction, this different thing, which I'll probably go into in another video, has the same kind of retrospect that this one does. The next thing he does is talk about autosuggestion. Now, so many people have used this similar type of thought process, but basically what it is talking to yourself day and morning, repeating the same things over until you start to believe them, until you start to act on them as if they had already happened. And for so many books, this has been repeated so many times. It is a staple of truly successful what successful people do. Specialized knowledge. He talked about the need to, once you have embarked on an endeavor, there's specialized knowledge. And I will tell you specifically something which I am doing is getting into digital marketing. There is so much specialized knowledge that I had to have that I didn't have a clue about. But sure enough, there it was. The imagination, the imagination, the key to whatever can go on. You have to unlock the door to your imagination. He also had organized planning, making, making a decision and sticking to it. The, having persistence. And he talks a lot about some of these things. One of the things that he talks about is the mastermind group. Now, how many different self-help books and how many different gurus have you talked about having their mastermind, having their, and when we talk about a mastermind, we're not talking about just some loosely, some corporate people that get together and, come up with some stuff. No, we're talking about a true mastermind. And he goes through specifically what that is, that the fact that to have a mastermind group has to be people that unequivocally are at going for the same exact goal. There is, it's kind of like when people are entranced in becoming, in going after that same thing. A mastermind group is like, in the world of sports. You could put like Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen. I mean, these guys wanted that championship ring, and of course they included the other Bulls with them, but there usually is two or more people that come on board that go above and beyond just the synchronicity. It becomes a third mind, and he talks about that, and I know that that's been incorporated in several people have said that. That is so true. Then we have one of the things that, this is one of the only books that I've seen talk about such an important subject, and it's called, the chapter's called The Mystery of Sex Transmutation. Now, I personally have understood this so well, and the thing of it is we grow, where a lot of us are sexually orientated, a high sex drive. And a high sex drive is, a lot of the people that what he had found is the very high successful people also had a very high sex drive. And what was able to happen is they were able to take part of that sex drive and turn it into going after whatever goal or objective they wanted to go for. And I will tell you, the sex drive is probably one of the most significant forces of mankind, because in it lies everything that there is. Sometimes men, I can only talk for men, and maybe in this kind of women at some point in time, but men will just go crazy in the pursuit of a mate. I mean, they will go above and beyond everything that there is in that one endeavor, because that's all they can eat, drink, sleep, and think about. And when that happens, there's something that magical happens. The universe just complies to whatever you do. It's just one of those things. And then way beyond the years that should have been there, he talks about the subconscious mind and how that works, how and why it works, and the fact that it does work, and how the autosuggestion plays into that subconscious mind, and you can actually get your brain to make you do the things that you want yourself to do. And it's such a beautiful thing. And then he talks about the brain and how the brain works. And then on top of that, he talks about the sixth sense. And this is where hunches come in. This is where people get this vibe. This is where different different self-help books will talk about the time that you know that this is coming. Now, one of the neat things is Napoleon Hill will tell you that you will realize the point where you know that you know that you know uh, there's going to be a time, but he doesn't tell you the name of it, doesn't tell you when you're going to find it. He says that that's the important thing, is that you find out for yourself. So, with all that said and done, this to me is the granddaddy of all self-help books. Now, we'll continue the series. We're going to do some more book reviews, but I want to tell you that it starts with this one because this is the utmost one. Now, there's going to be ones that specialize in various different things. Times have changed over the course of years, but the basic principles will still stay the same. And this is a priceless work of just sheer tenacity, and the value of this book cannot be overstated. So if you have not read this book, I guess if I was to recommend somebody to read a book, maybe the first one I'd recommend would be The Magic of Thinking Big, because it's a little bit more where you can understand it. But if you're already very savvy on some of these type of books, Think and Grow Rich would be your next book, or the book that you start with, because that is going to give you the groundwork for every other book that comes after it. So with that, I'm going to sign off. And for Solution Wolf, and this is Scott Keeler, we will talk to you soon. Thanks.